And now, it is the Rutherford Times Podcast. Today's topic, the state of professional wrestling. And here's your host, John Thomas Hill. Yes, I know we got to get a better theme song, but I couldn't. That's the best thing I could do in a pinch. In a pinch. So, hello everybody. Welcome to this Rutherford Times podcast. We're shifting professional wrestling over to this because it's more pop cultural than it is traditional sports. So we're going to be shifting our coverage of professional wrestling over to the Rutherford Times podcast. And the reason I was inspired to do this podcast today was a lot of talk in the wrestling communities that I follow on Facebook and other places about the state of the WWE, the state of TNA, and the development of Global Force Wrestling by Jeff Jarrett and allegedly Toby Keith, and also Ring of Honor. And I wanted to really touch on that topic today. And first off, let's go with the big fish, the WWE. Vince McMahon has been having a tough time in the stock market lately. I'm sure you're all aware that when the official results of how many people actually subscribe to the WWE network were finally released, that sent the stock tumbling. The reality is that he's lost $750 million in a matter of 2 months. That hurts. Now, whether or not that's entirely true, I don't know. I've read a lot about this, and it's everything from $350 million to $750 million. It could be somewhere in between. All I know is that the WWE needs to change things up big time if they want to regain some of the momentum that they've had in recent years. And with the departure of CM Punk, with the injury to Daniel Bryan, with the fact that John Cena has become rather stale, has been stale for a long time, and doesn't generate the same interest except from the younger fans. He still sells a lot of merchandise, but does he really push ratings? Does he really push pay-per-view buys like he once did? I have a hard time believing that. And I think the time has come to really start looking at turning Cena heel. Now, it's been talked about many, many times, but what you could do is slowly put the pieces in place to eventually turn him heel. And he needs it. He needs it desperately. He needs a character change, something, because he's been the same damn guy for nearly a decade now. You can't see me, hustle, loyalty, respect, the whole 9 yards. We've seen it. And it's boring. It is. There's only so much of this you can keep going with this until people go, yeah, we've seen. Who else has got a feud with this Bray Wyatt feud? And it's not that I hate John Cena or anything. I've always been sort of, okay, Cena's a good wrestler and all that, but he can't be the only guy there. The problem is that CM Punk isn't there anymore. He was a personality that could be the second, number 2 babyface or number 1 heel, someone that could, compete there. Then Daniel Bryan comes along. He was a solid babyface. Doesn't work so well as a heel. To me, John Cena really needs to turn heel. Doesn't have to happen at SummerSlam, but somewhere down the road, the turn's got to happen just to inject his character with some new found energy, with some newfound enthusiasm, just a different dimension, just different levels. I mean, it's bland. It's like plain grits. It's plain grits. No butter, no cheese, no salt, no pepper, none of it. It's boring. And I respect the hell out of John Cena. He's been doing tremendous work with Make-A-Wish and all these other charities. A great ambassador for the company, but he needs a change in his character. It doesn't have to be a full-blown heel. You don't even have to really turn him heel. Just different characters. Maybe have him kayfabe injured. Go away for a while. Come back and have a completely new gimmick. But we'll see about that. The CM Punk impact. What has been the impact of him leaving? I think it's greater than people expect. I think a lot of the interest in the product from people who would normally not have been in wrestling, who were sort of along Punk's, sort of the folks like Punk who are alternative, people who see wrestling, who saw Punk as being a cool guy in a maybe not so cool sport. Sort of, I wouldn't call it hipster kind of thing, but sort of like CM Punk was the guy you root for because he's different from everybody else. Well, he's gone. He's pretty much given indication he's retiring. His deal ends next month. And my feeling is that he's done it with the in-ring competition. He will probably stay in the WWE in a non-wrestling capacity. He'll probably sign a Legends deal that will allow him to do stuff for the WWE, but also do stuff on his own with the WWE backing him. Maybe do some movies, maybe do his own comic books, do his own podcast, what have you. But still be able to, from time to time, show up in the WWE, maybe on a panel, maybe as a guest commentator, maybe on NXT. Something that he doesn't have to be in the ring competing all the time. Because, let's face it, ever since he came back from his break after WrestleMania, he wasn't as good as he was before. It's just that I think the injuries, the toll of 15 years of constantly putting yourself out there and just busting your ass, it just took a toll on him, and he's not the guy he once was. So what can the WWE do? First of all, you got a bunch of guys that really haven't been utilized. I mean, there's Dolph Ziggler. I don't know who he's pissed off in the WWE. We all know he probably pissed off Triple H and Stephanie. That's who really are the main creative powers. Now, Vince is still in control for the most part, but Triple H and Stephanie are the two people that really are the heart and are the basically day to day right now. And it's a shame because Dolph Ziggler's so damn talented. But I think that he really needs to get a serious push as being a serious competitor. Because he's got a hell of a lot of talent, sells tremendously well, has a great work rate, great personality, over with the fans. You really need that. Another person is The Miz. Now, a lot of people like to dump on The Miz. Maybe it wasn't a great idea to put the WWE title on him. But he's a great guy. He's a great charisma. Pretty decent worker in the ring. Could be better. More of a tag team guy, I think. He's never going to be again over a upper middle card. He's never going to be a main event player again. But he's the kind of guy that if you put in a right, and what I'm going at is this. You've got The Miz, you've got Dolph Ziggler, you've got Zack Ryder, who I think really had a chance to be able to be a breakout star, and they kind of fumbled the ball with him. I like what he's been doing with his promos on YouTube. Last Resort. I like that because it gives a much more edgier, harder side to his character. And if you put him together with another person that's kind of been neglected, Damien Sandow, and maybe have them be a group of guys with maybe led by a Ric Flair, and just kick ass and sort of not be a Four Horsemen clone, but 4 guys who are just fed up and want to be champions, and put the belts on them. Put the U.S. title, put the Intercontinental title, the tag team titles, and make them an impact force in the WWE. I think that could go a long way. Now, Sheamus has been rumored to be turning heel. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Sheamus is a guy that is really in good with Triple H. He's a good friend of Triple H's. Don't have a problem with that. Not at all. As long as I want to see the guy wrestle. I don't care how good of a friend he is with Triple H. The problem with Sheamus is his face gimmick is rather dull. He's suffering from Cena disease, in all honesty. I think that turning him heel would give him an edgier character. It doesn't have to be a long-term heel turn, maybe 6 months or so. And, I don't know, maybe he decided he didn't want to do that and wanted to sort of stay in his own niche, But I think he really would benefit from it in the way that, maybe he needs to be repackaged a bit. Maybe pair him with Wade Barrett, instead of going up against one another, have those two form a tag team and maybe form their own little group that has tag team gold plus the U.S. and Intercontinental titles. But that's beside the point. And the Divas division, well, let's face it, AJ is going to come back soon enough after she's married to Punk. That's the news that's been put out there. Paige has been good, but I think they've booked her in a way that's made her look weak at times. The Alicia Fox angle has gotten old. There's no point to it. Oh, she loses and she loses her mind again. There's no point to it. Have it be a point to it, save for Natalie and maybe a couple others. Tamina Snuka's on the bench right now because she's had knee surgery. The rest aren't really that good when in the ring. And the Bella Twins, I don't really care about seeing them in the ring. Eva Marie, I don't care about seeing in the ring or any of the rest. It just, to me, I yearn for the days of Trish and Lita and Ivory and Molly Holly and Jacqueline and Jackie and all the rest. Jazz. Well, Ms. Jackie was not a great wrestler, but she had a great look. Charlie Haas, you lucky bastard. Anyhow, So, what's going to be the fate of WWE in the next 6 years or so, 5-6 years before the end of the decade? First of all, I think Cena will be retired before the end of the decade. I think he'll realize that he has nothing left to gain. I think he will have a heel turn. It'll be a massive heel turn, but I think eventually, slowly, he'll come back to being the good guy and have one last really good baby face run and then call it quits. And then forever be an ambassador, and we'll do action movies. Sort of like, he's never going to be the big star that The Rock is. The Rock is a once in a lifetime thing. But Cena will be doing the kind of movies that Stone Cold is doing. they'll get an audience. They'll get plenty of buys, direct to DVD, and all this. He may have the appearance in a feature film from time to time, and he'll be making plenty of cash. Don't trust me. John Cena is a smart guy. I like the fact that he turned Seth Rollins heel. It puts him. The problem with the Shield was Reigns and Ambrose were starting to outshine Seth Rollins. But even though Seth Rollins was working his ass off, Ambrose's charisma and Reigns' sheer physicality were kind of starting to outshine Seth Rollins a bit. So it was a good idea for them to turn Seth Rollins heel instead of doing the predictable move and putting Dean Ambrose heel. And I really think that there's a lot of interesting storylines coming along. I mean, the rumor is Roman Reigns is going to face Triple H at SummerSlam. I look forward to that match. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose in a huge feud that could be really, 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 really intense, as in perhaps even Attitude Era intense. Will they bring a third person in? If they're going to do it, I would put Corey Graves in that position. I've seen his work on NXT. I think he would fit perfectly in that situation. Corey Graves in NXT has been working as a big heel, but if you bring him in and just have him be the same guy, except he's working with two good friends of his in the Shield, and who's pissed off at Seth Rollins for stabbing his brothers in the back, then you got a good chemistry there, because then you can elevate Corey Graves, who I think has a lot of potential in the WWE, and you've got all these matchups. You've got Triple H going up against Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. You've got Rollins versus Ambrose, and you've got Orton versus Graves, which could be a huge boost to Corey Graves. Randy Orton could put him over after a tremendous match. I really think that could continue the feud. I really like this feud. I really do. And then Batista could come back as a babyface, and just say, you know what, I messed up. I honked off the fans. I'd love to see Batista come back and say, you know what? I let my ego get in the way. I let myself think of myself too highly. Apologize to the fans. You know what? I'm going to be the old Batista. And there's decimate Orton, decimate Rollins, decimate Triple H, and just have a massive feud with those guys. I think that would be... And that would get Batista over. The problem with the whole Batista angle was they had him win the Royal Rumble without Daniel Bryan being in the Rumble. If Daniel Bryan got the 30th spot and somebody else eliminated him and Batista won anyway, I think it would not have been necessarily as bad as the reaction as he got. But I think the fact that you got a guy that's been away for 4 years and all of a sudden he wins the Rumble. If you had it to where, say, Lesnar comes in and cost Batista the Rumble, then that sets up Batista versus Lesnar at Mania, which I think would have been a much bigger match, a much bigger deal. As much as, Taker losing to Lesnar was a big shock, in all honesty, I think it was a bad move, because the reality was Triple H. Who cared about seeing Triple H face off against CM Punk? Unless they had the idea of eventually putting Punk in the main event with Bryan and Batista and Orton. To me, all honesty, I don't know if that was the way they were going to go after all. I mean, we don't know. I mean, the only people that know are Vince, Stephanie, and Triple H. I said Trish for a second there. I don't know why. But anyhow, if the WWE is going to survive and thrive in the next 5 years, they've got to start building some new stars. You got guys, the potential candidates out there. I like Corey Graves at an NXT. I like Big E. If they can find a way to really fuse his personality into his physical character, I really like that. I like Cesaro. I'm not sold on Bo Dallas yet. Bo Dallas has to show a real sinister side to him. His character's a little bit of a lightweight right now, but you got to show a sinister side to him. I think Bray Wyatt has got a lot of potential. I think the two guys with him have a tremendous amount of potential. The Shield, absolutely a lot of potential. I mean, those three guys are going to be massive stars. Ziggler, if he's booked right, could be huge. Damian Sandow, the way they've booked him lately, unless he's just flat out punked somebody off backstage, they've blown it with him. This is a guy that's the kind of heel that could get underneath your skin. This guy won Money in the Bank last year, and they did nothing with it. It's criminal what they did to him. It's a real shame because this is a guy that really, in my opinion, could have been a huge heel. But they just didn't do anything with it. I don't know if it's backstage politics or... Yeah, I don't know if he... You know, I can't do a good Triple H impersonation. Will we see CM Punk back in the WWE? Yes, we will, but not in a wrestling capacity. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's my firm belief that somewhere down the road, CM Punk and Triple H and Stephanie and Vince McMahon are going to meet up. They're going to talk. Punk's going to lay it out saying, look, I can't go in the ring anymore. My body can't handle it. I want to still be involved in wrestling, but I don't want to be necessarily in the ring anymore. There's a lot he can do for the company and maintain a lot of that charisma. First of all, he could be the new commentator on SmackDown. JBL is great at what he does, but I would love for CM Punk to eventually take over for Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler was great when he was a heel commentator. As a babyface commentator, not so much. I mean, he's all right. But, it's sort of like, well, why have him there? He does good work. But CM Punk being there gives a whole different... you don't know what to expect. And, he could be the Jesse Ventura of this generation. A guy that, he could be a heel commentator, but give proper respect to the baby faces when they deserve it. I'd love to see that. I think that would be great. He could be on the panel every week. Not that the panel's weak or anything like that, but I think the whole rotation of guest panelists could be phased out and stick him in there, and that would be great. I mean, I think that having him do his own reality show in the sense of just let him do it himself, just have him follow around, go to punk rock concerts, comic book conventions, have it like the WWE version of Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations. That would be awesome. Even though he can't cook, I don't know if CM Punk can cook at all. He may be a good culinary cook. I don't know, but he's a vegetarian. I think he's a pescatarian. I think he'll eat. He doesn't eat meat, but he does eat shellfish. I think they also eat fish. I'm not sure, but I don't know. It just makes a lot of sense that you keep Punk involved in the WWE. If for anything else, just to get that element of the fans who are punk rockers, alternative people that like the guy, and get him involved in, have him put over people like Paige and guys that, could bring in the element that, the tattoos, the punk rock and all that stuff, Anyhow, And I think he'll come back for the simple reason his soon-to-be wife, is going to be involved in it. AJ Lee is going to be coming back. She's going to be another diva. So, it's an excuse to travel with your wife. Hang out with your wife and do stuff and make money. But I honestly think Punk's career in the ring is done. Outside of it, he's got a lot left in the tank, to say the least. Now let's go on to TNA. And I've not watched a lot of TNA lately, but from what I hear, they are really suffering. And the problem with TNA is that they're trying to be WWE light. They're trying to do sports entertainment, when in reality, when they had the six-sided ring, when they had the X Division, it really was awesome. You don't need all these old stars. You don't need the WWE so-called rejects. What they really need to do, in my honest opinion, is completely get rid of Dixie Carter as a character on screen, and just do a complete reboot. Have somebody come in, buy the company, maybe Mark Cuban, and have somebody else run it for him, or just somebody that knows, give some creative, not Vince Russo for Pete's sake, not Jim Cornette. Yeah, maybe Jim Cornette, but I don't know if Jim Cornette really would want to get involved in this time of his career, because he's kind of become embittered with the business a bit. So I don't know. It just strikes me as being, why would he want to get involved in something that, at this stage of his career, he's not really would be a positive force, in my opinion. I think that TNA is salvageable, but here's the deal. You got to lock down that TV deal. Second, bring back the six-sided ring. Third, push the young guys, but also keep stars that, Magnus could be a big star. I don't like him as a heel. I think a babyface works better for him. Bully Ray, despite the odds, is still a solid character in the ring. You've got to push the in-ring product. Don't do so much backstage stuff. Go back to the old style and become more pro wrestling than sports entertainment. And find a place. And the perfect place, in my opinion, would be move the whole operation to Charlotte, to the old Charlotte Coliseum, now called Bojangles Coliseum. Set up shop there, and Charlotte's the hotbed of wrestling, and hell, even maybe bring back an alliance with the NWA. Hell, maybe even buy out the NWA, put a few select NWA territories, and have them as your official developmental territories. Give them some money, find a way to get on regional sports channels or local independent channels. Here's an even better idea, and this is something I was thinking about earlier. If you bought out TNA, merged it with Ring of Honor, and then bought the NWA and turned that into a developmental league, what you could have is something phenomenal. You could have the honor code of the Ring of Honor, the traditions of Ring of Honor with the big television contract of TNA. Plus, you'd also have the B program, so to speak, on Sinclair stations, but also syndicated out to non-Sinclair stations in markets that don't have a Sinclair station. And what you could do is pair that up with an NWA promotion. Say Impact's on Thursday night, and then you have the B show on Saturday night, say on My Network TV, and have 2 hours with My Network TV as Ring of Honor / TNA. But also have the developmental territory come in, let's say 7 o'clock, and then the TNA Saturday night comes on at 8. Have it come on at 7 or come on at 10, depending on the market. It'd be tremendous. It would be tremendous because it would get the local promotion some exposure. It would get people out there. Send your big stars down occasionally to work those shows. Work together with the independents. Promote the independents. Go out of your way to promote the independents. And I think you'd go a long way to really helping professional wrestling in this country. Be a lot better than it is right now. But to me, I don't see TNA right now in its current form surviving for that much longer. And they're really up against it because if they don't get a new TV deal from Spike, they're done. I think they're going to get it because of the simple fact that they pull a decent number for Spike. If for anything else, Spike, Viacom, which owns Spike Network, will buy it and run it themselves until they can find somebody to buy the promotion for them. So, and Dixie Carter, to be honest with you, does not know how to promote a wrestling product the way that it needs to be promoted. And her on-screen character sucks. I'm sorry, I've seen it a handful of times. Whether it's babyface or heel, it just flat out sucks. They've lost plenty of talent. I mean, losing Sting isn't that big of a deal. Sting's 55 years old. You know, the only thing he's got left is a short run with WWE to get in the Hall of Fame there. Maybe an Undertaker match next year at WrestleMania. Maybe if Undertaker's up for it. But he has nothing left. I mean, Kurt Angle, honestly, do you really want to keep him as the star, as a main star of the company? Or do you want to eventually shift him? I mean, to me, in all honesty, I don't really think Kurt Angle can be the main event guy anymore. He's got injuries, he's got personal stuff in the past. And in all honesty, I would like to see Kurt Angle have one last WWE run before he goes in the Hall of Fame. And you have to push a youth movement in TNA. You really have to push a youth movement because it's not going anywhere else. You know, what? How worse can you do right now? You're not, having big stars earning big paychecks hasn't worked. And the simple fact is, when you brought in Hogan, when you brought in Bischoff, it didn't help the product. It was better before them than it is now after them. So, you lost AJ Styles. You lost Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, which are three guys that I think really do a lot of tremendous work. They've gone to Ring of Honor. You know, to me, from what I've seen, the only positive about the TNA is the Divas division, or the Knockouts division. They've got some pretty good wrestlers there. But if that's the strong point of the company, not knocking women's professional wrestling or anything, but the fact is, if that's the strong point of the company, you've got problems. So you got to do something dramatic. You got to wow people again. But personally, I think that TNA in its current form will not survive. Whether it merges with Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor will survive the way it is now. It'll find a way to continue to be the king of the independents, and it'll survive. It'll find a way, the little promotion that could. But TNA in its current form, I don't see how it can survive a whole lot longer. If it gets a TV deal, it may survive until it completely tanks, and then. But as for Global Force Wrestling, it's way too early to say. They've not even signed a wrestler yet. Jeff Jarrett's been talking a lot about he's going to go search the world for these professional wrestlers and such, and do it the right way. Well, and allegedly he has a deal with CMT. Which, if you know Viacom also owns CMT as well as Spike, which means that, and what a lot of people don't realize is Jarrett still owns a minority part of TNA. Could this eventually be to where Jeff Jarrett eventually forces a merger with TNA? That's hard to say. A year from now, we may know more about it. I honestly don't. I honestly have my doubts because, first of all, is there really a need for a fourth? I would say, I don't know if major promotion, but fourth national promotion. I don't know about that. Wrestling is evolving right now. Wrestling is changing, and with the internet and such, you've got some independent promotions who I think could eventually form a new territory system. If I owned TNA, I would be working with them, putting the territory system back together slowly but surely, putting them on regional TV or independent stations, making TNA the main program, and get these stars up there and just promote the hell of it. Bring in guys from New Japan, bring in guys from Mexico, bring in guys from Europe. That would go a long way. But the way they're doing it right now isn't working. Pure and simple. All right. Bottom line is this. WWE will survive. TNA, doubtful. Ring of Honor will find a way to survive. Global Force Wrestling, way too early to tell. However, I think that, as always, professional wrestling will find a way to survive. So, well, that's it for now. We're probably going to do another podcast here in a few minutes on Forest City Tribune, because I really want to talk about gun control again because of the situation that happened this past weekend in Vegas, as well as now one in Portland. So stay tuned for that. For everybody here at RSN Studios on the Rutherford Times podcast, this is John Thomas Hill saying good night, good luck, and may the good news be yours.